Good evening, everyone. The time is 6:40 p.m. and we're going to officially call this meeting to order for the City of Inkster Planning Commission meeting.
What time? I'm sorry.
6:40 p.m. Secretary Daniels, will you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Stephen Chisholm,
Present.
Vice Chair Kimberly Pazon. Here. Secretary Rebecca Daniels, present. Mayor Patrick Wimberly. Anybody? Heard anything? No. Commissioner Darrell Davis.
Nope.
Commissioner Mac Willis.
Present.
Commissioner Tanya Williams. Commissioner Tavon Hall,
He did reach out to me. He is on duty.
so he will be absent. Excused. Okay. Commissioner Cheryl Hayes Bradford. Present. You do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We now proceed to items number 2, adoption of the agenda. Has everyone had the opportunity to review tonight's agenda?
Yes.
All righty, the floor is open for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any,
Second.
Commissioner Willis,
Thank you.
is there any discussion to amend the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Adoption of minutes. We now proceed to item number 3, adoption of. Do we have any minutes for last week? Yes. Adoption of the September 26, 2022 meeting minutes. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the draft minutes?
I did not see the minutes.
You want to speak to that?
So the minutes were provided this evening. They are in front of you.
It's up to you all. Would you like to review them at this time, or would you like to postpone and put them on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah, I would postpone. I don't, when you said in front of us, like email or is it printed?
It's printed right here.
I don't have it. Unless I picked
It's
it up
behind
and
you.
saw that
It's
others-
behind you.
Thank you.
Move the table. Move the table. Move the table. Move the table. Okay. Where am I at? I'm looking at my agenda. All righty. Is there support? Or is there a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
So who's second? Which one?
Commissioner Williams. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Adoption of the minutes will be tabled until the following meeting. We're down to public hearing. I'm sorry, first hearing of the public. We now proceed to item number 4, first hearing of the public for items on the agenda but not scheduled for public hearing. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on agenda items not listed under item number 5, public hearings. At this time, if there is anyone from the public who would like to speak, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing no one, we now proceed to item number 5, public hearings. The floor is open for a motion to open the public hearing for item A, case number 22 excuse me. Excuse me.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Do we have to make motion to close and open for the hearings not on the agenda?
Yes, we do. I'll read that wrong.
So I move to
To open the public hearing?
yeah, I mean,
Okay. Is there a second?
we need a
Did we
second.
have to open and close
I
the
don't-
first hearing?
We didn't have a first hearing. That was a hearing from the public.
Right.
Okay.
Just for,
We have a hand raised in the.
yep, we were going into the public hearing. She'll have an opportunity to speak.
So let's get this, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So
This is my first time ever coming to this kind of meeting, so I'm not familiar with all the verbiage. I don't miss my opportunity to speak. I'm not sure
If we only speak to what's on the agenda today, it's like this one person here is kind of new.
So what would you like to speak to, sweetie?
So,
I guess that may be.
well, hold on.
I don't want to ask any silly questions, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say my piece.
No.
In Inkster, is there a mayor's mansion?
Okay.
Is there a place where the mayor lives like
Oh,
in Detroit?
mm,
And so.
Okay, hold on one
is there a
second.
way to make a certain property
hold-
in the city of Inkster?
Point of order, point of order.
Hold on one second. So this is the planning commission meeting. This isn't the city council meeting.
You know, I don't know where we broach this kind of issues, and I thought maybe something like that, like trying to make a specific property for
Nope.
city uses would fall under planning meeting.
I-
So, again, that's part of it.
No, you're fine. So you will have an opportunity to speak. Actually,
It should have been there.
it should have been at the part where it said first hearing of the.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if that's what that meant.
Hold on. No, wait, I'm sorry. You still have an opportunity to speak. The first thing we were talking about were items on the agenda. So yes, you'll have opportunity to speak near the end. But-
I'm sure all of that is on your agenda, so I didn't want to, interrupt at the wrong time. Thank you for hearing me out.
No problem. All right, so it was moved for the public hearing and seconded by who? By
Willis.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
to open the public hearing. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? The public hearing is now open. We'll talk about this at the end.
Yes.
Because I'm reading something and I kind of got thrown off of what you guys are saying, but it's okay. So item A, case number 22-28, special land use. Religious institution at 646 Inkster. Review and consideration of recommendation of approval of a special land use request for a religious institution in the B2 thoroughfare mixed use district at 646 Inkster Road. Pastor Richard is the applicant. I couldn't pronounce the last name, so when they come up, I will ask for the correct because I didn't want to butcher it. But go right ahead, Ms. Dixon.
So as you staff report, the special link for 646 Inkster is a vacant building, which was previously Marcellus Salon, and it's about 1,800 square feet on 0.72 acres. The site is adjacent to the urgent care business to the south, and then a residence to the north. So just quickly, I want to highlight some items from the special land use review. We did perform our typical special land use review, meet standards outlined in the zoning code. We did not find anything of significance in terms of reasons to deny this request. There are additional use standards for religious institutions. I just wanted to draw your attention to those. You'll see that in the third page of your review, page 5, if you're looking at it. And then I wanted to speak to some of the dimensional requirements quickly. So there is a requirement that religious institutions be on 2 acres. There's also a requirement that religious institutions not within 1,000 feet of other established religious institutions. Given that they also are required to be on a major thoroughfare, we believe that this case has a practical difficulty in applying to the zoning board of appeals for a variance in the dimensional requirement. And you'll see in our recommendation that the special land use on those variances being approved by the zoning board of appeals. The applicant is here tonight to answer any of your questions, and I will.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. All righty, if anyone is here on behalf of the applicant or if the applicant themselves, please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Pastor Richard Ajay.
Good evening, how you doing?
Could you say your last name again?
Ajay.
Jay.
Ajay.
Ajay.
Okay.
Cool. Commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Commissioner Daines.
So I kind of looked at the packet, and are you guys gonna be having service there? Because I think I read something about you not really having service. I mean, what kind of religious institute, what will actually be happening when you have church?
Yeah, it's normally Pentecostal. So we have a church on Sundays and Fridays.
So you will be having, I don't want to use the word church, so people will service, right? So
Yeah,
people will be
yeah.
coming in and out.
Yes,
And so you will have people coming in and out of the parking lot
yes.
and parking space and all this. So 'cause I live right around the corner from there.
Oh, okay.
I've actually gotten my hair done there when it was my
Oh,
school.
okay.
And it's really, really small. So I'm trying to think like, and I know the Jerusalem church is right across the street. So I'm trying to picture that in my head, like, how much traffic that's gonna be, because I thought it said you wasn't gonna have service. I thought maybe you were just having some kind of, I don't know, but you're actually having
We have
service.
it. But we are not many. Right now, we have about
Right now, you're what,
we have about 12 to 15 people.
12 to
we-
15 members?
Yeah, we are not a lot. We are,
How many people do you expect to have? I mean, you hoping or can?
well, our goal, if the church grow up, our goal to extend the place, like get a permission to. But right now, as we are standing, the church is 3 years old. And the previous you rent from another church. But when the COVID hit, we're doing everything online. So this is the first opportunity for us because most of our members living around here. So they want us to get something that is close to them. So that's the place that.
So you say your goal is to extend? So which way are you gonna extend it? So I'm trying to see, on one side is the parking lot
Yeah,
and the other side
go
is,
straight to the back. Yeah.
Probably to the west,
If
to the rear.
Can I interject?
yes,
Absolutely.
please.
Thank you. So tonight, consideration is not dependent on a potential extension in the future of the church. They would have to come back and apply for that extension. And at that point, an
Okay.
extension would go through the same review process.
That we're going through tonight.
Make through
Okay.
all of those considerations. So as of
Okay.
right now, we are considering it based on the footprint that exists. And we believe that based off the amount of seats that the building can accommodate, the parking is sufficient. There's, the pastor, when we discussed earlier, said of 25 seats, and the way we calculate, it's 3 seats per parking spot. So we don't see that as a significant parking issue or traffic circulation problem, even though they will have services on Sunday.
But it is within less than 1,000 feet from
That
another
is
church.
correct.
And it is on less than 2 acres of land, which is a city ordinance,
Correct.
city of Inkster ordinance that it typically should be, correct?
That is what, yes, is in the zoning ordinance as the requirement. The reason why we are recommending a variance be sought from the zoning board of appeals is there are very few 2-acre parcels on major thoroughfares that can accommodate this request. There are industrial sites along Michigan Avenue, and some vacant sites along Michigan Avenue, but there is a practical difficulty in terms of the available lands that meet the other requirements of the ordinance.
So,
I mean, if you, just to finish that, the decision would hinge on that zoning board of appeals decision to grant a dimensional variance for both of those requirements.
Thank you.
Commissioner Willis.
yeah, I mean, I see nothing wrong, I mean, with bringing God. You know what I'm saying? We know, I know that's my personal opinion. If the pastor is trying to bring people conscious, I'm all for it. They have to go through the zoning board and then we'll take it from there. Fortunately, I'm on the zoning board also. So I move to approve, but I mean, it's ultimately up to all of us, but that's something that, we got thousands of marijuana. so
We have a lot of
damn sure
churches
need
too.
God.
Yeah, we do.
That's
We have a
my
lot of churches.
All righty, Commissioner Williams.
So and this is not directed to the pastor, this is directed to the planning department. What is the current parking situation at that property?
In one moment.
Thank you.
Currently, the site has 13 parking spaces.
So 13 parking spaces and we're dictating 3 seats per parking space. So right now we're saying, what would be the maximum occupancy would be 39, 40?
Yes.
Okay, and. But, so in order for the church to proceed, they still would have to get these 2 variants. The 2 acre lot and the 1,000-foot buffer, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then here I see, so the proposed language of an obscuring wall, so is that gonna be concrete or on the western lot line to separate from the residential district obscuring, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that language, what does that mean?
So just as a point of procedure, the site plan consideration will be later in the agenda, but the obscuring wall will be either a masonry wall or potentially a vinyl fence, something that's open. And currently, there's a chain link fence, which is not up to our code ordinance for commercial buffer to the residential area.
Okay. That's all I have. Sure.
All righty. Any other questions or concerns or comments, commissioners?
I'm gonna wait until we get to the site plan
Okay.
portion.
Anything additional you'd like to add at this time, sir?
Yeah, well, that I can say that if there's any room for you to consider us, we are really small church and we try to bring something better to the community. So our goal to maybe in future bring a food pantry and all that. So something to help the community.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there any further comments or questions from the public regarding this item?
Well, she said like what's gonna happen in the future can't really be here right now.
I'm sorry, could you approach the podium and state your name for the record?
Can I?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anita Carter, resident of Inkster, perhaps mayor of Inkster, hopeful. I'm familiar with the area. If they would have said like Marcel Salon, I would have knew what they were talking about. And like being familiar with the property, there's space to expand in the future. So I would just want to say like maybe don't, deny them because of parking and things like that. Because from someone that's a resident in the community that's familiar with the area, there should be space for them to have their parking. I was thinking that it's right across from Focus Hope, and there are a lot of churches in that area, and we don't want to have too much of the same thing in the neighborhood. But again, I'm all about bringing God in the community too, so there should be room for them. I'm all for it. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thank you. All righty, and seeing no other further comments from the public, the floor is open for a motion to close the public hearing for item A, case number 22-28, special land use.
I move to close.
Second.
Probably moved by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Willis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The public hearing is now closed for item A. The floor is open for a motion to recommend approval to City Council of the requested special land use for a religious institution at 646 Inkster Road with the conditions set forth in the planner's report.
So move.
Second.
The property moved by Commissioner Daniels and seconded by Commissioner Willis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are down to unfinished business, and I don't believe we have any. And we're moving on to new business. Now we proceed to item number 7, new business. Item A, Case number 22-29. Excuse me. Site plan application for 646 Inkster for a religious institution. The floor is open for discussion. Ms. Dixon, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. So this site plan review is discussing this institution that's for a 6 Inkster. I do want to point out some differences in the fact that it looks a little bit different than a normal site plan review letter that you would see. It is not as lengthy, it's not as detailed, and that is because this is a occupancy. They're not making any changes to the structure or proposed changes to the parking lot. No ingress or egress is being shifted, so we are treating this as a reoccupancy as written in the code, section 155.083. That only requires a plot plan. So you also notice in your packet, you only got one sheet of, a drawing of a basic survey, and that's meeting all of the requirements as listed in the zoning code for a plot plan. And the reoccupancy requirements look at off-street parking, compliance with the buffer walls, which is that obscuring wall that Commissioner Williams brought up, the requisite public sidewalks, sign requirements, and then landscaping. And I apologize, I realize the copy of the letter you received did not have the landscaping requirement. But Pastor and I have discussed the landscaping requirements and his willingness to perform up to our standards. And so that is why you'll see a lot of sections that say there's no proposed changes to the existing site. We really focused on the ones that the reoccupancy outlines for us in the zoning code. So that being said, as was mentioned, they will need an obscuring wall that will buffer between that use and the residential use to the west. And there will be a requirement for landscaping trees in that planted yard area, as well as along Inkster Road. And then we did have a couple of other items I just wanted to highlight. I apologize. The restriping of the parking lot, just to keep that, because the lines currently as they're drawn are not to our standard. And then the engineer will also be looking at the parking lot quality to ensure that the maintenance is, again, up to our standards. There's not significant other. And we haven't received our letter from the city engineer at this point.
All righty, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Faison.
Thank you, sir. You just answered some of the questions that I have, but I just want to return to the parking question. I think earlier in the agenda, it was stated that the max occupancy is somewhere around 39 to 40 people. And so even though they may be projecting, I don't know, I think I heard 15 to 20 people now. Scott, thank you, 12 to 15. If they were to reach their max occupancy, I'm sure they want to grow and have, more people, but they don't currently have the parking for them. So what would be the number of parking spaces they would need to have to accommodate their max occupancy?
So given the current amount of parking spaces, they have 13 spots, that can accommodate approximately 40 people based off of the 3 seats per parking spot. That's what the zoning code outlines.
Got it. Okay.
So based off of the square footage and the seating, as Pastor and I have discussed, he's amenable to that, and that's our understanding in terms of how much seating capacity there will be.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And I think you covered a few other things that I had on my list. The only thing that I have left, question mark, is about lighting. Is the lighting sufficient?
So there is lighting, I know it's really small on here. There is some lighting in the parking lot existing and on the structure. So we believe that it's sufficient in terms of the need for security and
And then what's the landscaping plan?
Let me flip to- So we are recommending that there are 4 trees provided along Inkster Road. And
What
then
kind of trees?
4.
Okay.
And then 3 ornamental trees also along Inkster. And 3 trees in the planting yard area.
Okay, thank you. That's, and did they agree to the wall?
Yes.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Anything further, commissioners?
Are there any specific type of trees that'll be going up there?
The zoning code does outline the recommended species of trees. I don't have that list in front of me, but there's a recommended list for deciduous trees, which would be the 4 trees along, and then also the ornamental trees, which would be the 3 along Inkster Road.
Now, I kind of was thinking about, well, I'll hold off on that for now. I'll just hold off.
You say for now?
Yeah, because once we call for the vote,
Yeah, I got something else on my brain, so
Okay.
I won't put it out there.
just to, I guess, give you some insight, in the past, we've spoken about different types of trees that were going on the island, which has city services running under them. And I forget at the time, as Adriana Jordan was here, and so, and Commissioner Darrell Davis from DPS was here too. But we spoke of those concerns because of water main breaks or those particular trees going down and hitting the mains or hitting the sewer lines and things of that nature. So we had opted to as certain types of trees, different trees than what we had been, just for those concerns years down the line. Because I don't know if you personally or anybody else has driven down Avondale, but since they've been repaving it, every single one of those trees has been torn down and dug up because all of those trees were going down into the sewers lines over there. And as they come further down Inkster Road and you're going down those side streets, people have been complaining, but all of those trees are digging down into it and they have to cut them down and dig up the stumps in order to make the repairs and prevent anything further from occurring in the future.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question about that?
Go right ahead.
Would they be able to ask DPS to put a flag where the water lines are?
When the trees are planted? Well,
Well,
anytime.
in
they-
advance of planting the trees?
Well, I think anytime you get ready to dig your plant, they gotta call out a contractor, Miss Dig out to mark everything off.
But that's at a certain depth, right? That might not be the depth for tree planting though.
Yeah, for any utility, yeah, it is a certain depth. They come and mark it off and let you know where it's at. I'm saying they don't say it's like, hey, 10 feet deep here, it just says it's here. Or if it's 6 feet or if it's 2 inches, it just says it's here.
I planted a street tree, but I didn't, it wasn't deep enough you have to go a certain depth in order to have it marked by like a public utility generally, but
Oh, if you
Can
just
they
call them
have-
as a dig, if you digging, they're supposed to come out because with cable, TV or internet, they only go about 2 inches under the surface.
wow.
Yeah, it's just a small incision they place it. So that's why anytime you dig,
All right.
you know, the rule of thumb is you will call whatever the number is from Miss Dig. I don't forgot it now. It might be 1-800 Miss Dig.
It is. It's exactly what it is.
But yeah, that's the rule of thumb. In our yards, we tend not to. I mean, right around your house, you're not gonna hit the gas line and stuff like that. But on the island, which is city property, technically you probably should.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Anything further, Commissioner? No, okay. Anything at all, Commissioners?
I do have a question with
Commissioner
you.
Daniels.
Yes. With regard to the lighting, you said that that the planning department felt that it was enough lighting there. I don't see lighting there when I'm riding up and down Inkster. So where's this lighting at? Like, where is it at outside?
There's lighting on the building and there's, to my understanding from the survey, there's one light. in the parking lot.
I don't really see it being lit up at night.
Well, I can't speak to whether it's running right now, but I
Oh, okay, so
can only say that from the document that was provided, that it's.
So it does work.
And, you know, if it doesn't work, that will be part of the electrical permitting process.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, the floor is open for a motion to approve the request proposed site plan for a religious institution at 646 Inkster Road, subject to the conditions set forth in the planner's report.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Willis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item B, case number, this is just a discussion of the floor for 2022 marijuana ordinance updates. The floor is open for discussion. Ms. Dixon, you have the floor.
Thank you. My colleague, Mara, she sends her regret, she's sick. Was planning on being here to lead the discussion. I want to continue to give the opportunity to further this as we plan to have a public hearing on the November meeting. I know that many of you completed these worksheets already, but they're here just for a reference point for the conversation. I know that most of you said that you believe it is inappropriate to have a marijuana as a permitted use in that green zone between Henry Ross and Middlebelt. And it seemed like there was general support though for that entertainment district to become a green zone where we would remove those buffers. It seemed like there was also consensus around where these items could become a special land use or continue to be a special land use. And so I know that there was also discussion of the business process application, talking about social equity components. And I know that you're all aware of this from reading it over, but we discussed how the process will now start in planning and zoning verification, and then go through the other components for the business license. So I guess just some food for thought. I know we've already reviewed this, but any additional discussion that we want to have, this is a perfect opportunity.
Thank you. Commissioners,
Mr. Chair,
right ahead.
just a question to the planner. Can you remind us about the number of readings and just like the general process for getting this developed here and then going to the city council for approval?
So there will be a public hearing at the planning commission. The planning commission can then recommend the ordinance amendment to city council. Once at city council, it has to go to first and second reading. Chairman, if I'm mistaken, is correct.
Nope, I think you're right.
Okay, and is the idea that at the November planning commission meeting, we will have language to review and we will be voting or asked to vote that day?
That will be to your pleasure, so the vice pleasure, and we will have language to review that will be part of the public hearing process. Whether the body feels comfortable, depending on the public hearing, voting at that point, or if there is a need for further revision at that point, I think will be kind of a decision as we move through with that actual language.
And depending on the length of the document, it might be helpful to kind of lay out either now or in an email, like if you want to receive comments before we even get to the meeting. So if we can just kind of mark it up on our own and either provide like a marked up PDF or provide comments in an email, or, you know, it might help if someone lays out some guidelines for how we provide comments so that it's not all verbally stated at the meeting, but some amount of editing and working through the comments has happened before we vote.
Absolutely. So we'll send that language out to you even in advance of the packet going out with provisions on how to provide
Okay,
It will be a red, you know, straight through type document. Where you'll be able to highlight the changes.
okay. Do you happen to know how long it might be?
The goal, at least of the zoning ordinance component, is to actually streamline it. So currently, the way the ordinance is laid out, you have a separate section for each type of marijuana use. And many of them have similar, or if not the same exact language in each section, with maybe an additional, you know, letter or line item. So the goal is to hopefully streamline that into one section with all of the provisions for all of the marijuana uses, since so many of those are similar, and then also speak to those additional items. So shorter than it currently is my hope. I think the entire strike through document with every portion of it that will be updated is like 13 pages, but again, that's because we have to list out the entire table of contents. So in terms of content, probably less than 2 pages. For the zoning.
Wow.
So the business licensing, the section 124, I think is a little bit longer. I think that's around 8 or 9 pages right now. So in the working draft format.
Excellent. Thank you.
Alrighty, commissioners, anything further? Already hearing none, and this was just a discussion.
Correct.
Alrighty. Well, no, since there's no further discussion, we can move down to miscellaneous. Ms. Dixon, do we have anything for miscellaneous?
No, we do not.
All right, commissioners, do we have anything for miscellaneous? I didn't think we did.
Did you want to give an update?
I didn't prepare anything, but I
Okay.
can.
No.
Yeah, why don't
You
you?
don't,
Yeah, why don't you?
2 minutes, give me 2 minute update.
Okay. Let's see. So there might be, I don't know if you were with us, you know about redevelopment ready communities. But I don't know if you know that we have a subcommittee that is dedicated to that work. And then I don't know if you've heard any updates, and I guess for the general public.
I am taking the class.
That's awesome.
We have one left.
Congratulations. So I'll just share for the public, as a community, years ago, we decided that we wanted to go through a process called Redevelopment Ready Communities, which is a program of the state, Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And the purpose of it is to ensure that communities have solid land use planning and economic development planning processes, and that those processes are transparent to the public, easy to access online, and make it easier for volunteers like us and other members of boards and commissions to be able to understand what the various economic development and land use planning processes are. And so the process has 2 levels, essentials and certification. And we want to strive for all of the levels. And so to do that, there are certain activities that you have to undertake. And so our committee recently decided to tackle various, to own various activities that will then submit to the state, getting towards those processes and those levels. Commissioner Daniels, I think, has taken on the recruitment process,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williams has taken on do they call it orientation? And then I'm responsible for developing a training process. And so that the last, we provided that update at the meeting that we had earlier in the month. We generally will meet once per month on the second Monday of the month, so long as we don't have a special meeting of this body, and then we'll cancel otherwise. So by doing it that way and having it, and we actually meet at the library, it makes it possible for some of the folks that came to our August training who want to support us, contribute to some of the projects, or even volunteer for some amount of work, it makes it possible for them to be able to contribute as well. So we did have several people who expressed an interest in supporting this process, who participated and have said that they, they have indicated what areas interest them and where they will contribute in the future. And so we'll be meeting whatever is the second Monday of November. And that'll be at the library, although I think we might have to adjust for time because we probably want to give ourselves a little bit longer than we had last time. So we're each working on our projects. I don't have an update on mine. I have research, but I haven't written anything yet. I'll defer to you all if you want to say things too.
I'm in the exact space, so I've done a lot of research and I'm definitely working on it. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Same, just doing the research now and then getting ready to schedule a meeting with the city clerk so that I can see what is available as far as what we currently have for our boards and commissions. And then, of course, one of the guests that came to the last RRC subcommittee meeting offered some things that we're going to see if we can implement it to the community and our boards and commission as a whole. So we can kind of streamline the process and move on to some other things that will get us a little bit closer to essentials and then to certification.
Ma'am.
Well, thank you all for your commitment and dedication. And just for the general public who's here and those who are watching, November 14th is the second Monday.
Thank you.
So you guys can meet them at the library. All righty, and nothing else under miscellaneous, right, guys? All righty, we've now proceed to item number 9, second hearing of the public for items not on the agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to topics not included on tonight's agenda. At this time, if there is anyone from the public who would like to speak, please come to the podium, state your name for the record.
Hello, Anita Carter again.
Hello.
I missed my part about what we were just talking about the green zone and all of that. I think that's what you guys were just talking about. I want to choose my words carefully and I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm just going to say, I think overall it looks like a good idea, but a few concessions need to be made. Just when I think of like the history of the city of Inkster, I feel like our city has so much to offer. And I don't want people to get so caught up in the city of Inkster being all about one thing. So just like in the future, planning committee thinks about that, please keep that in mind. And just right now, I kind of, since we're here addressing things that aren't on the agenda, I did mention before about a house that I wanted to turn into the mayor's mansion if possible. So this is in city council, and I'm not sure if this issue falls under planning, but since there's someone here from zoning and city council, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. The reason why I wanted to bring this issue up is because I was hoping, could the city of Inkster take eminent domain of the property in question? So I didn't know if that was the issue that zoning or planning could deal with maybe.
Over what property in question?
It's 27203 Michigan Avenue, and I think I tried to take adverse possession of the property. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but I don't think it worked. But then I think the city of Inkster may have sent me the water bill for the property. So now if I'm going to be responsible, I'm going to have to continue to assume ownership of the property.
What you talking about?
The house
House on the
belongs
hill.
to Lily Lester. She's the first female sergeant at arms in the United States.
So you talking about taking her house?
Well, what I would like to do is rent to own the house from her.
Have you talked to her?
Her family is blocking the sale. They're using, they're like strong arm tactic in me. They're,
She's
they're
still alive. Isn't she?
alive and well and agreed to let me to rent to own her house. But like I said, her grandchildren and people around her, like I said, again, I might be getting into things that I might not be too knowledgeable about. It might be people in the city of Inkster that are much more in the real estate with more means that want this house. All I want is what would be best for the city of Inkster. So I feel like the city of Inkster should be looking into turning the house into the Lily Lester group home. And y'all should be trying to take eminent domain of the property. This is the last thing I want to say. When I inquired with the property at City Hall, they gave me a real hard time about it when they could have made it easy to give me simple information. The property is behind on taxes and the ordinance department has not issued any tickets since 2019. So I may have told Ms. Lester that if I couldn't get the house, if they wouldn't deal with me, that I was gonna see to it that the house was torn down. I'd like to apologize for that on the record because that may not have been right. But if I don't want the house to be an eyesore in the city, and I don't want the weather to ruin the house for Ms. Lester either. So if the city of Inkster isn't gonna do anything about the property, it is gonna be dilapidated. I am gonna like try to contact Wayne County and appropriate people to,
So let me,
Grid
because
blight.
I'm very familiar with the house, I'm very familiar with real estate.
okay.
First and foremost, there's nothing you can do about that property. That lady owns that property. As long as she owns the property, no one, the city, no one can touch that property because it's hers.
The city can't enforce its ordinances.
Okay, but
And, or what I'm asking is, can y'all maybe not take eminent domain? Would y'all not pay Miss Lester if y'all did that? Maybe has anyone from the city approached her? Because again, the property is looking to be dilapidated. The elements are gonna destroy it. It's an eyesore in the city, so it's the only reason I'm trying to even bring attention to it.
Financially, if the city of Inkster was in a financial position to repair the property or to demolish it in any way, shape, or form, and we were looking at doing that by purchasing from her, then taking that action, we would, but we're not in a financial situation right now to purchase a property and to renovate it or demolish it. Really, that is a historical property because it was built in the 1900s. I know there were persons who talked about trying to secure grants and historical markers, things of that nature, to bring it back up to its original state. I'm not sure where they're at in the status with that, but that is something on the plate of the planning department or anybody's plate at this particular time. Speaking to the ordinances, I'm not sure where that stands with why nothing's been issued or anything like that. It's always something that can be, looked into. I know Miss Lester is 100 years old. We just dedicated the street to her, and
That's why I don't understand why her property isn't together. That doesn't make any sense. And I thought these types of things fall, like planning and zoning.
Again, like I said, it's something we can follow up with the ordinance department about.
Please, that's
not-
all I ask.
I'm not sure, but I'll tell you this too. In the city of Inkster, no one's we're not in the business of taking properties at all. We're looking at.
That's
for
good to
instance, with the
hear.
Inkster Neighborhood Stabilization Program, trying to get properties, and our realtors trying to get properties back on the tax roll. Because after, now if she just let the property go, then of course it goes to Wayne County.
Just to interject, I did attend the first city council meeting this month, and I think they were going over the fiscal year. And again, I don't want to talk too much of what I don't understand, but I think that I understood this correctly. They said that there was $9 million in the city of Inkster budget that is like unspecified funds. So I was just thinking maybe if there are funds that maybe are not specified and y'all could specify it for a special project.
If you heard $9
Because
million,
if we're trying to make this property, it turned 100 years old this year. So like, could it be a Michigan historical fund? Would that somehow free up some money to make this happen?
if you heard $9 million in any line item in the city of Inkster that is unspecified. you
I
heard
did.
incorrect.
Maybe I heard it wrong, but
Or
that's what it sounded
or-
like to me.
Or you heard about it in the water fund, which is a restricted fund and can only go towards water infrastructure. That is not in the general fund at all, or.
They
any-
say it was just some money's unspecified, and I understand in any budget that could be a thing. So I was just trying to divert some of that to save a historic piece of Inkster property. They said the house belonged to Robert Inkster. So I mean, the planning, the zoning,
and
the
see
city
that-
council, we all should be prioritizing this property now.
I would tell you this, and before we close out, when you said the property belonged to Robert Inkster, I would say do some research, because if you go to the city of Wayne, they do have some historical pictures of older houses and older properties that were held and owned by the founders and forefathers of Inkster, and I do not believe that was one of them. Because that house was built in the 1900s, I believe.
Be a
Robert
lot of
Inkster-
gossip going on, but that's what someone said, that Robert Inkster himself used to live in that house, so.
I digress.
But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do because she owns that property. And then if she leaves it to her kids, grandkids, whoever, they have total control of that property.
Who, as far as the ordinance people issuing the tickets and following up the things that, like issuing the violations that need to be issued, who do we deal with that?
When it comes to ordinance, there's half and half.
So just
Some-
like the police station and
Some
the.
fall under the
ordinance
police
officers.
department, some fall under their building department.
Okay, all right, thank you guys so much. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right ahead.
I did think of one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is actually important. They're doing work up Inkster Road right now. Is it the Wayne County Road Improvement Project?
Mhm.
So part of them doing the road improvement project, there's a business on the corner up there by the bridge, Halt's Towing.
Mhm.
So I think that street that Halt's is on is Princeton. When they started doing the Wayne County Road project, for whatever reason, I think maybe to facilitate taking equipment through there, they like cleared out the road and they laid gravel. So it's pretty much now to where it could be, a little more concrete and a sign, and it would be a road. So I hope that this falls under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. At this time, can we ask for that to be made into Halt Road, the same way y'all made Lily Lester Street? Because the Halt family is a respectable family in Inkster that does business. And since most of the work has already been done by Wade County to make it a road, I just thought this would be a nice thing to ask you guys about.
Actually, Princeton is a city street. They probably just paved the gravel to make it even.
Well, this is the thing. It would be like their own personal street. It would not intersect Princeton or change Princeton to a different street. It would just be a very small street, almost like very similar to the street that Ms. Lester has named after her. It would just be that one section that leads to their business. They would make a right and it would be Princeton. So it would be, the best thing for their business as well as the city. More paved roads, not dirt roads.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll look and see if that is an actual road. That might be an alley. I don't know.
The whole
Because-
family said that they have tried to get permits for this before, and they've been through this with the city before, and they couldn't get it done. So
and
hopefully
like,
now that someone here is advocating for them, maybe.
like I said, it might actually be considered an alley. And just over time got worn down the way that it is, and then gravel was poured. Because Princeton is a street I know for sure. The alleys are still alleys, and even though persons over time have extended their backyards to them, when you look at blueprints and site plans, they're still alleys and they're not vacated.
Well,
for
this one
utilities.
goes right to Penn Funeral Home, so we wouldn't want it
You're
to be an
talking about on the
alley.
sides, the gravel that goes uphill, right?
Yeah,
It might have been an alley or something like that at one time. That's what I'm saying. It's not a paved road. A paved road would require sewage and all of that. I know exactly what you're talking about next to the cleaners. It might have
okay.
just been a path over time. They got wore down, and gravel was paved, and then they continued using it. But it's not necessarily a maintained road in the city of Inkster. But it's
So
something
that'd be more of a zoning thing.
it's something we can look into because
Or the Wayne County Commission where you get the road permits and all
well,
that
no,
good
that
stuff
will be
too.
that is a city property. That's not Wayne County property.
This is their personal property, so they would have to go. and inquire about that.
Well, if we can look, I will inquire. because
Thank you.
again,
Thank you guys so much for being patient and knowledgeable. I appreciate that.
No problem. Go back to the agenda. All righty, is there anyone else from the general public who wishes to speak on any matters that were not on our agenda tonight? Seeing no one, we now proceed to item number 10, adjournment. The floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Willis and seconded by excuse me, Commissioner Williams. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. This meeting is now adjourned at 7:34 p.m. Thank you all, commissioners, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Allergies are.
You know what? Allergies.
On Thursday, I started feeling better today, and then.
So, Kim,